Hi everyone, welcome to the Whiteleyverse with me, Connor Whiteley, for another daily short story. Now, before I start today's story, please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you want to buy this short story and any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers and at your local bookstore and local library if you requested, and you can order paperback copies from Amazon. Now, here's today's short story. I hope you enjoyed just as much as I did writing it.
Returning Strength. The 20th of July 2022. London, England. Of all the phone calls I, Thomas Riley, had expected to receive on a boiling hot summer day in the heart of London, it hadn't been a phone call from my angry former boyfriend threatening that he was going to try to kill me yet again. I was currently sitting just outside one of my favorite coffee shops in all of London, because the amazing thing about London was that there were so many delightfully weird little places that were hidden from the rest of the world. Like Joey's Gay Delights. The little coffee shop was wonderful because it was a weird shape with plenty of little corners and booths for hot men to hide in. And thankfully, the worst thing I had ever seen was two very fit men making out, and yes, I just happened to join them for a quick one. The rest of the coffee shop was so charming and modern and cozy with its bright light with copper hoods, black walls, and golden semicircular coffee bar in the middle of the shop that made the shop look really, really modern. I loved the place. I sat at my favorite spot in the coffee shop, which was at the very back with my back pressed against the warm black wall, because this spot gave me the best vantage point so I could see any threats walking into the bar, and I could also see what hot men were currently walking in. Occasionally, there was someone who stirred my interest enough to make me move. Otherwise, I tended to just read the news on my phone, do some work, and think about which local charity I should support on my next charity run. I understand this attitude might be a little carefree for someone who had gotten a death threat over the phone only a few seconds before, but there was an excellent reason why I was calm, or well, as calm as I could possibly be at this moment. I had summoned some help. Now, of course, I started originally coming to this place because I loved the name, and I thought that it was a great place to meet hot, sexy men because I had just moved to London, needed a new place to get coffee, and if I could find hot men at the same time, well then, I was hardly going to avoid the place. That's how I met my ex-boyfriend and former abuser, Callum. He was sweet and hot and sexy. He had a slim, fit body that was so hard that I loved touching it at night, and his face was kind and caring, and he was just perfect. Until he wasn't. The only major problem was that because he had mainly used psychological abuse against me, the police couldn't prove it, and the Crown Prosecution Service, as much as I honestly love them because they did the work of gods at times, they couldn't take the case to trial, and so my boyfriend went free, but he stayed away from me until now. Callum was always an aggressive man, and I had heard when we were dating that he had been arrested for assault 3 times, but of course I loved him, so I didn't exactly pay much attention to that. And he always had a great excuse to why he had been arrested. Apparently, the men deserved it. Again, it didn't twig in my little horny mind that he had beaten up gay men that were his boyfriends each time. "You called," a male voice said as he sat down at my small wooden table. I just smiled, my head went light, and my entire body relaxed. I hadn't even realized it had been so tensed until now, as I looked at the hottest man alive. Detective Inspector Jack Yates. Jack was a truly gorgeous man, with a very slim body, long lustrous blonde hair, and a face that made him look like a god amongst men. I had originally met him 4 years ago, when Callum had abused me so much that I had decided to put a stop to it. Personally, I would have now preferred to kill him, but I had naturally decided to take the legal route first of all, and then Callum had left me alone. Thank goodness. Jack was wearing a short-sleeved white t-shirt that highlighted his slight muscular biceps, 4-pack, and he was just so kind. "You never called me before," Jack said, smiling. "It's good to hear from you." I was surprised that even now Jack was being so amazing towards me, considering he had actually wanted to start dating after the whole Callum incident because we had laughed a lot, cried a lot more, and just bonded over the whole trauma of crime because Jack had been a victim of assault before too. "What's the problem?" Jack asked, leaning closer to me, and he really looked like he wanted to kiss me. Something smashed through the windows. An explosion ripped through the air. Flames engulfed the coffee shop. People screamed. Staff shouted at people to get out. The flames engulfed tables, walls, everything. Someone screamed in agony. A man was in flames. He was running around. I shot up, charged over to him, and knocked him to the ground. The man rolled around. The flames went out, and I pointed towards the exit. He ran away. Jack grabbed me, pulling me towards the exit. The temperature rose. Toxic smoke filled the air. Flames shot ahead of us. Glass bottles exploded, slicing my arm. More things smashed through windows, giving the fire more oxygen. The fire roared to life. Flames engulfed the exit. We were trapped. We were the only ones inside. Jack screamed as he picked up a wet cloth. The cloth caught alight. It wasn't wet with water, but alcohol. I picked up Jack, throwing him over my shoulder. I charged towards the exit. Flames licked my flesh. I kept running. I jumped into the air on instinct. We smashed through a weak window. Flames caught our clothes. But me and Jack quickly dropped to the ground and started rolling about, and thankfully the flames went out. Our clothes were well damaged, but I was just glad to be alive. 3 gunshots went off. People screamed around us. I jumped up, and all I saw were men and women in posh business suits and dresses running away down the concrete road with little shops and houses lining the street. 3 more shots went off, but I saw they were aimed upwards, as I saw Callum was standing in the middle of the street with a massive gun. The deafening roar and crackling and popping of the fire burning away the coffee shop filled the air, and even now I could still feel the extreme heat of fire. "I told you I would kill both my exes," Callum said, grinning. I gasped as I finally understood what he had meant by that on the phone call, and I had completely forgotten about it until now. He had always wanted to kill me, but I had never realized he knew that I liked Jack, and also that Jack was one of the 3 men Callum had abused. Jack stood next to me, and I noticed that lines of soot and ash covered his beautiful face. And I was so mad that Callum had dared to do this to beautiful Jack. Jack was one of the kindest, bestest, and most amazing people I had ever met, so how dare Callum hurt him? "I was hoping you would die in the fire," Callum said. "I had a lot of time to think about killing you and Jack together when I was cooking my poison pies, painting my landscapes, and hurting little insects." I had actually forgotten how bat crap crazy Callum was now. He had had so many weird little hobbies that I suppose I should have taken them as warning signs, but he was just so hot. "The police will be here soon," Jack said. "That is a lie, Inspector. We both know Tommy didn't call the police about my death threat. We both know you wouldn't have called your bosses about the death threat, and well, this is a bad part of London, so a few gunshots will not scare the cops enough to come running." I had no clue why Callum thought this was a bad part of London, but I just hoped that someone would call the police. Callum shot at me. The bullet screamed through the air. I tackled Jack to the ground out of instinct. The bullet slammed into my left shoulder. Crippling pain filled my body and eyes turned wet. I could barely move my shoulder, and my left hand was shaking so badly that I couldn't get it to work properly. Jack wrapped his arms around me and tried to shield me from Callum, but that only made my dick of an abuser laugh. The coffee shop exploded. Thankfully, we weren't right in front of it. Flames shot out. The shockwave threw us a few meters. Jack screamed as flames licked against him. Callum slowly came over to us and kicked me in the stomach and slapped Jack across the face. Jack leapt up, grabbing the gun. Callum punched him, kicked him in between the legs, and stomped on his ankle as Jack fell to the ground. A loud crack and Jack's scream echoed down the little narrow street. My heart pounded. Sweat poured off me. My breathing turned rapid. This abuse couldn't be happening again. I had stopped Callum before. I had to stop him again. And then I took a deep breath of the smoke-scented air, and I just looked at my pathetic excuse of an ex-boyfriend. He really was the scum of the earth, and I just stared at him as I stood up. You always were a weak boy, I said to Callum. You were always a nobody, and even now you need a gun to be strong. Pathetic. Callum frowned at me. You see, Callum, I said, I don't need a gun to be strong. I don't need a weapon to be strong. I have what you will never have, because I am a strong person inside. And I don't fear you anymore. Callum laughed, came over to me, and pressed the gun against my head. I still have 2 bullets left, so I think I have all the power here. Now, I laughed at this idiot. Sure, you can have all the power that the gun provides. But you will always be a weakling little boy that has to punch others to feel strong. Maybe your mother and father were right to cut you off after the first time you punched them. Callum spat at my feet. Nice knowing you, I said as I turned around and went over to beautiful Jack and helped him up. Look at me. Callum shouted. I will kill you. I will end you. I will paint this street with your blood. I simply kissed beautiful sexy Jack on the head, and we both started to slowly walk down the street to find the nearest A&E department so our wounds could get seen to. I will fucking murder you both. Fear me. Pay attention to me. Callum shouted. I only hugged beautiful Jack tighter as we listened to Callum shout and scream for attention, and then he slowly started to break down and cry like the idiot he was. Then a gunshot went off, and a body fell against the floor. And thankfully it wasn't me or Jack's. Why did you stand up to him? Jack asked. A few hours later, and after a very nice visit to a local hospital, where me and Jack were treated for only minor injuries, thankfully, minus the bullet wound in my left shoulder, I had brought Jack home, and we were both in my bedroom. I hadn't exactly planned to have a hot man over tonight, so there were small piles of dirty underwear, socks, and sportswear on the floor, but judging by the hard rod pressing against my side as Jack carried me into my bedroom, that was hardly a bad thing. We both went over to my large double bed with black silk sheets and hard supportive pillows, and me and Jack sat down on it. There was a little light coming from the street lamps outside, but besides from that, we were sitting in the darkness, and I was getting hornier and hornier by the moment. Because, I said, grinning at the detective inspector that I had to admit I had liked for years, something made me realize that he was a nobody. He didn't hold any power over me, didn't control my life, and he was pathetic, and when he realized he was nothing, and I wasn't scared of him anymore, he killed himself. Jack smiled, and he sat so close to me that I could feel his amazing body warmth against me. I wish I had the courage you did. I shrugged. You were still amazing today, and thank you for coming to see me. You probably had better things to do. More important people to help. Jack laughed so hard he kissed me on the shoulder. No one is more important than you. You might have rejected me 4 years ago, but I never stopped thinking about you. Your kindness, your little cute smile, and your amazing ass. Well, he was hardly wrong about my ass. Apparently, it was one of my best assets, according to many men across the UK and the world. So I know today's been difficult, Jack said, but I was wondering if now our abuser is gone. If you wanted to, go on a date. What was today then? I asked. I took you to a hospital, and you got treated wonderfully. We laughed and joked and kissed a little. That's a great date to me. We both laughed. No, Jack said. A real date without abusers, hospitals, or injuries. I hissed a little as I stood up right in front of him and pressed my legs against his. Well, I cannot promise any more about the no injuries because I do like to be active with my dates. But a date does sound very nice. Jack bit his lip and smiled, and that really was the same sensational smile that I had seen and fallen for all those years ago. Jack gently grabbed my ass and pulled me closer. I also can't promise no injuries too. As we both started making out, we both laughed, kissed, and our stomachs filled with butterflies. And it was only now that I was realizing how desperate I was for Jack's touch, body, and most importantly, love. We had both been wanting this for ages, and now we were finally going to give a relationship a try. We were certainly going to savor it and take our love as far as it would possibly go, and that certainly wasn't a short distance in the slightest.
Welcome back everyone, it's me again, Connor Whiteley. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's story, because I flat out love writing, creating stories and sharing them with you. If you really enjoyed today's story, then please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithms. And if you want to buy this short story or any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers, and you can get them from your local library if you requested, and you can order the paperback copies from Amazon, your local bookstore or local library if you request it. Lastly, if you want to support the channel on a one-off basis, then you can now buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Connor Whiteley. Also, if you know anyone who would enjoy today's story, then please share it with them. I'm always really grateful when you wonderful people help spread the word about the channel. So, thanks for watching the Whiteleyverse, and I'll see you again soon. Have a great day, everyone.